Hello, Rachel.
How are you?
I'm feeling pretty content.
Oh, that's nice.
And I'm ready to make some content with you, Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I had that planned out, and I had in my mind, I'm flipping a coin of whether Rachel will find that amusing or she'll be annoyed, and she gave me an annoyed face. So that means she loved it. Rachel, how about you, though? Are you doing well overall?
Oh, you can go suck donkey balls.
No! That means I have to turn my ship away from you now and go mind my own business. Good luck to you, my fellow Martian. Ha ha ha, donkey balls. But Rachel, other than talking about secret Martian codes and how eloquent they are, what are we doing today?
We're here to talk about the Expanse. And we are bringing the yum perspective to this sci-fi television show. And Yum was divined from Star Trek Discovery. I don't think I used that word correctly. But
No, I felt like it was a religious-like experience. It was bestowed upon us by the holy gods that were the Star Trek Discovery screenwriters.
Yes.
Sorry, if screenwriters came out of my mouth, I giggled a bit after saying that.
Oscar winner.
Oscar winner Michelle Yeoh was in the scene.
Mm-hmm. She posed a question to another individual who was present.
And she asked, hey, can you help me kill the antagonist of the season? And
hey, you wanna?
You want to? And instead of a simple yes or, oh, I'm looking forward to it, this other character who we don't know very well licked her lips sexily. This is true. Flicked her hair back, still telling the truth, and said, yum. That's the God honest truth. That happened. And I just really want to emphasize how absurd that is. And some people may say, well, that sounds like lighthearted fun. The problem is, tonally, Star Trek Discovery is so all over the place. Everything is so heightened that when a moment like that happens, it's such whiplash. Well, say The Expanse, for instance, we reference the donkey balls line, which is absurd and delivered with beautiful comic ease from the actor who plays Alex. But what I really like about how the comedy is used in The Expanse is it's used sparingly. And is there to inject some light levity in a rather dry and serious show. While Discovery, it is they jam it down your throat with comedy, and that is very cringy comedy. While The Expanse has some cringy comedy in there, but it's very, very sporadic and may get a giggle out of you or may not. But yeah, we're watching through The Expanse for the first ever time. This is our first time through. So if you are experienced with it, don't spoil it for us. Don't tell us anything about upcoming episodes or things that happened in the book that were here or weren't here. I'm going to close my eyes and plug up my ears if you start doing that. Do not spoil the experience for us, okay? So, Rachel, what episode of The Expanse are we diving into today?
Today, we are looking at Windmills.
Windmills? Is that another one of those Don Quixote references that this show loves to do? Is it? Is Jimmy Holden, who I jokingly said in the first episode we would never call him Jim Holden, but one day maybe call him Jimmy, is he like a knight chasing after windmills for a woman that does not really... Yeah, you know what? Yeah, Holden's Don Quixote. Got it.
Jimmy liked to think of himself as a knight. He thought it was a funny story. I never broke it to him that it was a tragedy. Can we stop with the bullshit now?
Oh, I had a little left about how charming your home is.
Holden and crew realize that they are not alone on their ship and find themselves up against Martian marine blockade. Miller's dark night of the soul.
No. Oh, I weep.
Believing all is lost, finds a new reason to keep going. Avasarala visits Holden's family in Montana.
Oh, man. And Holden is here in the episode. His mother is here, and she was the person who I thought was pretty yum. When I say that, yum has an inherent sexual connotation, so who's someone that made me want to lick my lips and go, And Holden's mother had it, because she could stand toe-to-toe with with our lady from the UN, with one of the most powerful people on Earth. She doesn't give a shit if Avasarala is this big dog in the universe here. She's looking at it going, yeah, you want to try and fuck me? Go ahead and do it. Let's not bullshit around. Oh my, I'm getting hot under the collar just thinking about the scenes they had together. Is there fanfic of those two characters? Send it to me. Rachel?
It can't be spoilers.
No spoilers though, okay? Just slash fic. Rachel, who did you find to be yum? Who did you want to lick your lips, flick your hair back and say, yum over?
Amos.
Wow, I'm shocked. What reason was it this time?
His brutal honesty, those muscles, his moral duplicitousness.
I don't like a man with too many muscles. Well, I didn't make him for you. Windmills, episode 7, lucky number 7. Quick fire thoughts on it, Rachel. Tell me yours.
It was pretty good. It was weird because it was such a slowdown compared to the last episode, which was like breakneck speed for the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And now we're kind of back at the start of that cycle of setting things up again. But it's not setting up the characters, just their plot of like, we're moving this piece here. You know what I mean? Like, instead of feeling like a game of speed chess, it just feels like regular chess again.
Yeah, I enjoyed this one. I had a pretty solid time with it. I wasn't blown away. Nothing here was truly shocking, but there were some delightful things. Avasarala was walking through the snow. That was a great image, and she had some really great one-liners. We learned some interesting pieces of information, as well as just our belief systems of some characters.
Yeah.
So I found this one to be enriching character-wise. The stories were very minimal. There's not much to them. They're very basic and boilerplate and bare bones. But that isn't a negative, because I don't need complex storyline in an episode to satisfy me. I have said many a times that if a story is straightforward and understandable, and it serves to emphasize character, that's what I prefer. So the story with our crew having to evade being caught by Martians and looking for a code to get their way out of it wasn't the most exhilarating wowzer storyline I've ever witnessed, but it helped give us many interactions between characters and lots of moments for us to get to know the crew more. And so I liked the episode overall. Now, we have mentioned that Holden's mother appears in the episode, and so let's look at that side of the story first, as it's pretty insular. It's on its own. It helps give us a little bit more weight to the actions and reactions of Holden's story, but we finally get to see Christian outside of the UN and her house. Wow, what an image that is of her in that gorgeous outfit, so colorful, so vibrant, trudging her way through the snow. I just thought that there was, again, an arresting visual. Every episode of The Expanse thus far, or almost every episode, has that one striking image, that one piece of business that is going to linger in your brain after you've watched it. And this is a simple one, but it's an elegant one nonetheless. So walk us through what's happening in Christian's story, in Avasarala's story, and your overall impressions on this plot.
She basically goes there because she's got all of this intel about Holden, but she's not sure how much of a threat he is and if he is a terrorist or he just has bad luck. But she doesn't have a feel for Holden. So she goes and talks to his mum, goes to the little compound in Montana.
Which has windmills, sci-fi windmills. So the title has multiple meanings. One of them literal.
So she goes there to have a chat with Mama something.
Mama Holden.
I like living near the land. Doesn't make me stupid.
Was he involved?
Of course not. He would never.
Oh, no, wait, I know this one. My boy was a little angel. He never even hurt an insect. Oh, if you'd just seen what a wonderful child he was. And I thought we were done with the bullshit.
I thought this was such a great way to develop the UN side of this, because Christian and Earth has been observing everything that's happening. They have all of this information, but looking at things through a document, looking at things through intel does not always give you a great understanding. So on paper, Holden is this enigma of a figure. He just keeps going through these tremendous circumstances. Fred Johnson went over this a bit in the last episode too, of him being the luckiest dipshit in the galaxy. So she takes the most direct approach. I'll go talk to his mother, and through her, I will get a feel of his character, because he is, even through the intel and through the information she's accrued, he is such a peculiar oddity in these events. And the message that he gave does seem like someone who is trying to do the right thing. Like Holden comes across as a guy who is noble and trying to do good, but you cannot deny his presence in so many detrimental events to the galaxy. So she has to get her pieces all in a row here. And I liked it because she relates this through her own personal standpoint of why she does things as a mother herself. So she goes here to talk to Holden's mum. Now, I really didn't expect this. I didn't even expect to see any of Holden's family. They were briefly touched upon in one of the other episodes when he was getting interrogated. But to get a whole storyline where we spend time with his mother and we learn about who he is and why he is the way he is, I really didn't have that on my bingo card, because he comes across so much as the typical protagonist, and I didn't think the writers were going to explain any more than they've already done. So they've come up with a cool reason, I think a pretty cool reason, as to why he's such a white knight knucklehead. And I found it just exhilarating and makes me a little bit more interested in Holden, or makes me reflect back on the scenes we've had with him being such a milquetoast guy and go, okay, the writers were being a little bit more deliberate with that than just, he is lead, that's what lead does.
Yeah, but I just want to acknowledge something that you said in there of how we got told about his family, but you didn't think that was necessarily going to go anywhere, or that we would see them so soon. Because I felt the same way. And it's things like that that are really building my trust up in the show of these things are actually going to matter and they're going to be paid off, which is it's reassuring me.
Christian Avasarala has been known to me, and I think a bit to you as well, just from the reactions we get from the listeners, from the people, from our patrons. She's a very beloved character. We've liked her, but I think you can just tell that she's beloved because she's very snarky, has all of the quips and the great one-liners. And we were done with the bullshit. And we haven't experienced that as fully. thus far. She's had good lines, but they've been good philosophical lines and the occasional good quip, but she hasn't had those moments to shine as bright.
Yeah.
But this episode...
She has a sparring partner.
She has a sparring partner. Yeah. And I mean, how do you feel about just, I guess, this, I don't know if evolution's the right word, but this slant on her character where for 90% of the episode, she is just saying fire lines of dialogue, just rip-roaring ones where you just fist pump and cheer and go, yes, that's a good line.
Yeah. How could you not love it? It's amazing. It's something that I love to harp on about, but it's greater than the sum of its parts. The lines on the page, then the actor's performance, the score that's underpinning it, the direction and the cinematography, all working together to elevate it in a way that makes it look easy. It's not a labored scene. The fact that they make it look effortless when you know that there's so much effort to get all of these pieces in place and working together in the cohesive way that they are, it's wonderful. And it's wonderful to see her in this context of somebody else's home. We've spent a lot of time in her home with her husband and with her grandson. We know what she's like in that environment.
And we know what she's like when she's in the UN. She's torturing people or getting told off for doing nefarious stuff.
And it's very interesting to see her in this new place, navigating this new relationship, and the way that she operates and the strategy that she uses throughout the scenes with Holden's mum, and the way that she adapts to suit her opponent of sorts.
We saw this happen with the Martian ambassador friend, where I'll invite you over to my house and we'll drink the wine and they'll go play cricket outside. She is very adept at putting on a friendly human face to achieve the goals. In the episode, it is underpinned by the fact that she has security flying outside ready to pounce at a moment's notice. She isn't just a person who's worried about a war starting and she's doing her best and she's come here to talk to Holden's mother. She is a powerful individual, one that brings destruction with her or one that brings terror along with her. Just with that floating outside, this ominous thing that to Holden's mother says, we will storm this complex, take you in and interrogate you, which is completely valid to look at Avasarala as, especially when we meet her in the series. She's just interrogating a guy and torturing a guy with little to no care. But you see in this, and this is why I asked about the snarky thing, is they're adding a level of humor to her to make it a little bit lighter when you look at her, because there's another way you can play this where you have Holden's mother justifiably saying that she's awful person. Why should I speak to you? And as a viewer, you would naturally agree, even though you like the character of Christian, you would naturally agree. Hence, sometimes in media, they try and lighten those characters up so that it's easier to swallow. We are named Yum Yum Podcast because of Star Trek Discovery, which has Empress Georgiou, which is an example of when you do that poorly. She's a character that's a genocidal maniac, and they give her these sassy, quippy fire lines that are embarrassing, and not only embarrassing, but they detract from the real message. And that's why I wanted to just make sure to touch base with this, because there are examples of what they're doing here with Avasarala that has been bad, either in the way that Georgiou is, or you overuse it. And I want to make sure we keep an eye on that because
Yeah.
remember when River Song entered Doctor Who?
Gosh.
She was this breath of fresh air, a really wonderful character. You couldn't help but be enamored by her, even if the episode was crappy. And then by a certain point, it was like poison taking effect on you.
When they finally reveal how long the night is on that planet.
Yeah, that's for a Doctor Who reference there for you kids.
God. I really like how in all of the storylines, now even with her in the UN, there's this undercurrent of the importance of perspective when it comes to force. Because she sees it as her security team. They're there to protect her. But Holden's mum sees it as they're there to attack them. And we've seen that over and over again with Mars. They see it as security. Other people see it as a threat. And same with the police on Ceres. And it's interesting how they are really exploring with the dimensionality of power dynamics across the galaxy. Because like that's also a big part of the OPA is they're trying to get power and take it away from the privileged as they see it. And they are seen as terrorists by other people and heroes from a lot of the Belters, right?
Correct.
And it's just a neat way that they're continuing to weave that thread throughout the whole universe in more subtle and more overt ways.
I need to understand you, son.
And what will that accomplish now?
I have two governments and whatever the hell the OPA calls itself on a course toward a war that your son started. I want to stop it before anyone else loses a kid.
If people were not only able to listen to one another, but to see things from the other's point of view, so much of the conflict would be lesser then. To see the things through their eyes, but also related to your own things in life. That's the key to it as well. It's not just...
there's so many failures of empathy in this show.
Because it's not as simple as she comes here to Holden's mother and goes, I'm a mother, so I understand what you're going through. She tries that tack to begin with, and it was false. So she had to really dig deep into her own soul and her own past to be able to make any actual traction with the person she was talking to, but with herself. And so we get information about Holden and why he is the way he is, and how his mother also forced him down a certain road and realized, unlike Christian, she realized what they were doing was wrong and encouraged him to escape this. Instead of making him into a future leader of their little fucking creepy political group or whatever they've got going on, she saw that they were molding him in a way that wasn't right. And so she pushed him aside. And so when you hear that, you can understand why these two characters are talking to one another after a certain point. Because we have mentioned how Holden, as a character himself, some of the most unbelievable stuff in the series is, why do people keep talking to him and or keep giving him what he wants when he as a character is so milquetoast and vanilla and doesn't have enough to really necessitate people like Fred Johnson allowing him to do this completely reckless plan? Well, here is an example of two characters, one of which we're meeting for the first time, where I can say with 100% assuredness behind this, I understand why these two continue to talk during the scene and why they open up to one another when at the start that wouldn't have happened during it. There's an evolution and arc of both of these characters during their scenes in the episode. And this is why we have to focus on it, because it's a smaller part of the story here, but it really is emphasizing one of the strengths of the series, and in turn highlights when they don't always succeed at this.
It's scenes like this that build a show.
Holden's life as a child and a young man I found to be very funny, because they came up in universe explanation for why he's such a fucking drip of a guy, like why he's such a little do-gooder. He comes from a family co-op, which I found to be a very fun term thrown around. And before we found out that information, Holden said some line in particular, and then we cut to his family farm, and you leaned over to me and said, "Is he a Mormon?" Because he has this polygamous family thing going on, and he has this certain
Montana?
And he has this certain do-goodery nature to him that you looked at through
righteousness,
a religious prism. And it actually made me go, why would you think he's Mormon? And you said those reasons, and I sat back going, if they're going to reveal he's Mormon, I'd be fine with that. And what they revealed instead was...
it's more interesting,
I found it to be fascinating, but you can definitely see that there, his existence, and I want to hear from you specifically a bit
we
about
already
what...
knew about his genetic background, but I was wondering if, like, on top of the political stuff, there was also religious stuff, because there is a big history of polygamy within the Mormon Church, and I could just imagine them in the future using genetics and DNA modifications in this way.
Yeah.
To because like he was created
as a little write-off so that they can get some land.
Yeah, so that they could get all of this land.
Basically make their own little nation.
Yeah.
Which I wanted to get that across, which is he does come from this co-op family, the political group. He was created basically as a means to an end so that they can attain this land and basically have their own rule over it and not be dictated by the powers that be. And that mentioning of the Mormons earlier is really great, because they could have said he was Mormon, but what I really am liking about what they've done here is this is a series where the Mormons are in it, but not necessarily all of the stuff that you associate with Mormons, even little strands of them, have to live only in the Mormons in this show. Do you know what I'm saying by that? Because
it's just like because that would be easier if it was anybody who's like this is this, but the show is interested in exploring the grey, which is like the space in between those things and the way that identities shift and change and the impact that our relationships and power has on those as well.
Yes, and what they are, you could easily see the script just writing in, they are Mormon, and we would be easy to accept that, because some of the tactics that they're using and the big family thing and the polygamy and all of that is synonymous with something like
and
Mormonism. But just even
you're about to turn 18, run away so you don't have to do what we
had to do,
what we expect of you,
and the
mission, perhaps
the rather peculiar ways they go about taking land before they just bought it all with capitalistic means. But I really was drawn to this because it's a nice science fiction-y way as well to give us insight to our main man, because there's a bit of sci-fi to it, obviously, with him being this genetically created thing, and we've got this political group that exists on Earth and how they defy the UN and this is how they do it. And they went to all of these protests and marches and they would drag Holden along and that he
wanted to go.
And he wanted to go, but they engineered him literally to be born, but they psychologically prepped him to be the new leader. And since he was a child.
How much of that was them knowing that and planning for that and creating that, and how much of that was just them living their values as well? Like, they're putting a lot on this kid, right? She admits that. She's like, we told him from the beginning that this is why you're here on Earth. You serve this purpose. You're here for us, for the community. You represent all of these things. You embody these things. And everybody treating him like that. How much of that was them just going, oh, well, that just is. And how much of that is, okay, well, we need somebody to take over. We need somebody who's going to be in control. We need to make sure that James grows up to be like this. So we need to do these things and manipulate him in this way.
We set him up to be a leader and then gave him a fight he could never win. The day before his 18th birthday, I took him out to mend a fence. And I told him to get as far away from this place as he could. And that if he didn't go, then I would. Because I couldn't stand to watch what we were doing to him anymore.
It's that notion, too, of what if you raised the presidents? Yeah? Like, if you raised somebody and bred somebody to be the president.
Malcolm in the Middle?
Yeah, Malcolm in the Middle, sure. But if you did that, what would they be? What would that person be? And they say here he would be Holden, which is a boring goody two-shoes who's got such a moral standpoint that he's willing to fight for it to a degree that is noble, yes, but annoying, definitely. And so Chris Jen, after all of this, lands on the side that he is a good man who just has bad luck. And she talks to Ehrenreich, who says, well, tough shit, because that spy you wanted in the previous episode, well, he's gone off the grid, and the last we heard was Holden and his crew are going to go off and do this thing that sounds awfully a lot like terrorism, so fuck Holden. We're going to send our boys after him and clean up this mess.
I had a very weird thought, and I think now is the time to share it.
Yes?
Because Aaron says he's missed his last 2 check-ins.
Yeah, Aaron Wright? Yeah.
Is that his first name or his full name?
No, his last name is Aaron Wright. His first name is like Sadvi. I can't remember. I've seen it written down, but no one said his first name. By the way, still no one said Avasarala in this show. I just, by the way, fun fact, I just looked up the actress saying it, and that's how she said it. So don't go me.
I was just going to start over and say his full name, but no.
No, we've only seen his full name written down.
Yeah. So Aaron Wright's there, and he's like, he's missed the last 2 check-ins. Do you think him peeing is how he checks in?
No, I think last time he checked in was when he was at the bar last episode surveilling them.
But, like, they make such a thing about him needing to pee, and he's like, I needed to pee for, 2 hours.
I just think he was being funny.
Yeah.
Look, if they come around and say his pee sends out code, I'm going to be real upset. I'm not going to be happy. I'm going to be really upset.
But I'm like, with all of the modifications, wouldn't that be kind of...
One of them?
Yeah.
Sure.
That way you would never get caught.
I hope not. And if you do, you're going to have a real rough time of them ripping that out of you. But this is a nice way of connecting the Earth-based story to what's going on in the literal sense of, hey, that spy has given us this information, so now we're invested here. But again, all of the weight put upon Holden's backstory and how he's this ideological little boy who thinks of himself as a noble knight, even though he's just chasing after windmills. Because the major sticking point to this one, and I imagine this is what everyone remembers Windmills for, is Amos and his worldviews and the churn, and how that is in direct opposition to Holden. So we've gone through Holden pretty thoroughly in terms of how he has his outlooks on things and why. And so let's delve into Amos, a character we both very much enjoy, a favorite of ours, and I imagine a favorite of the fans. And I've been praising very much how they've found ways of not making him just crazy for the sake of crazy and drama making for the sake of drama making.
Or just evil.
Or just evil. He's not here to make conflicts happen just because he is emotionally unstable.
Dargo?
Like Dargo in Farscape, or like Worf at times in Deep Space Nine. Like, remember that one where Worf went on a holiday and he became an incel and he almost helped a terrorist group kill an entire planet because he's just a fuckhead? Like, sometimes these characters who are emotionally stunted are just fuckheads in the plot, and they don't do that with Amos here. And yet, this is a storyline that necessitates it, that gets right up to that line where he is going to murder some Martians, which would obviously be big trouble. And Holden is opposed to that for the obvious reasons of life is life, and the Martians are people too. And remember,
and so many of them died for us. He brings that up multiple times.
It's fair. I mean, heck, they used Lopez's chip to help with the thing. So, or try to help with that.
The idea that he feels indebted to people who did him a service makes sense.
Makes sense. But so does Amos's practicality of, well, guess what? They see us as the enemy and they won't hesitate to kill us.
And I see them as the enemy. Because
they see me. But we hear about the churn. Oh, the churn, which is Amos is actually talking to this spy character that's been stowed away on board, and he is put into the airlock, this spy, and the spy is bemoaning the fact that this is wrong, and what he's doing, the spy, is guilt-tripping and psychologically toying with Amos and the crew by doing the thing you often see in shows nowadays, especially, which is making the good guys question their actions, and or we see a lot in television shows now, especially modern Star Trek, where the show itself, rather than the characters, the show itself points to our good guys characters and say, yeah, but aren't they doing slightly morally fucked up things? Are they really the good guys? If these are our good guys, what is morality? And then they stroke their chin going, think about that one. The Federation is corrupt? Oh, what a take that is. Oh my lord, utopian societies don't exist because Section 31 exists. Blah, 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 blah. They try and do that here where this guy does the, aren't you the good guys? Don't you see yourself as good people? Don't you have any shred of decency? If you kill me like a common animal, that's bad. He tries that on Amos, and it doesn't work because he has the viewpoint of the churn. But guess who he tries that on later in the episode? Holden. And boy, it works a treat with Holden because Holden is dumb enough to fall for that.
So much.
He's dumb enough to fall for that. Of course he is. Even though we don't know exactly how much it swayed Holden because he has a bit of a poker face on, you can tell.
I have family out there too. If you can look at yourself in the mirror and still decide that you're gonna toss me into space because I'm inconvenient to you, then at least you can do me the respect of telling me that it's gonna happen. And mercy is not in the cards for me. So I can make my peace.
But let's get into Amos, who, by the way, isn't this his best episode thus far? This is the greatest material this actor's had to chew into. He gets a nice, juicy monologue.
Yeah.
And so Explain to us all, Rachel, Amos's worldview, how he's come to this point.
He's come to this point because of an old boss he had, I believe, was the origin for the term the churn. And I get the feeling that it's something that he's been very familiar with. It's the intersection that Amos has been at a lot in his life, of being caught in the middle and being crushed by the feet of giants. Because he doesn't actually have any control over the situation. He gets affected by the bigger powers and them going through these big changes. And we see that quite directly with the sort of feeling of imminent war that's building up in the show between Mars, Earth, and maybe this third power.
The OPA even is in there too.
Yeah, and of course we have the OPA, which is also very keen on a war happening. But people like Amos aren't in the powerful seats like Avasolara.
No, they're just a guy.
Yeah. And Miller's in a very similar spot of he's just being affected by other people's decision. Like, his autonomy is limited to what people more powerful than him say he can have.
For Amos, it's about survival. That's what he's determined this to be. If you live, you live. If you die, you die. Yeah. That's it.
But it's not just that. It's the inevitability of this will kill you.
It's a very...
We're not making it out of this alive. And it's not just the idea of we'll all die someday. It is different than that.
What I like about this, what I think makes this stand, is our characters that we're following on this ship are the ones caught in between. We've got this big galactic conspiracy. All of these higher beings are playing the game of chess. And these are the pawns. These are the people being moved and shuffled along. And so how do they come to terms with that? How do they all go about that? We see Holden is Mr. Dignity. Oh, I will fight back and things will work out my way because I have a good heart. And we see...
Right. And the good always win.
And we see Naomi has defiance. She defies it. She goes against it in her own way. And we even have humorous moments of that here where I'm very good at, don't underestimate how good I am at breaking things. And Alex, he's not as clear, but he's far more of a passenger in life, it seems, even though he's the pilot of the ship. He very much goes where the things take him with some minor resistance, but not too much. And Amos, you could say, is resigned to the fact that you exist in the universe, and so things will happen to you. Oh, I can die right here, but that's what will happen. Or I won't, and that will happen too. And it's a very nihilistic standpoint he has, that this is a game of survival, and you either win it or you lose it. But he speaks with such clarity about it, and how he maps this onto human behavior and morality, because by the end of the episode, he's right. Like you shouldn't think that, because he's clearly like psychopathic. Like, he's willing to just murder people. We've said this before about his violent tendencies and how they remove the...
Naomi was right to be afraid of you.
He removes the fact that there are innocent people, because to him that doesn't matter. innocent people. They're just a part of the churn. They're part of the game of survival. This spy, I can flush him into space and he'll be dead and that'll be that, and it doesn't matter. We can move on. Or, Holden, you can shoot me in the head. You've got a clear shot. And then it'll be over. But I just find it fascinating that he is just so self-assured and confident, and we've proven that he is right to feel this way about so many people, especially that spy character, because it does come from a place of him not being able to trust things, him not being able to trust others on an individual level, him not being able to trust himself, him not being able to trust the system, the powers that be, and the universe at large. I don't know. I found it really compelling.
Just like Holden's family and experiences have trained him to believe one thing, Amos's have trained him to think another.
And it's okay. What do you think about how an episode where this could have ended with him murdering everyone? It doesn't. They save the day. But how do you feel about Amos's worldviews and how the episode lands on it almost being a good thing? Because they could have easily shown him going full monster mode and just derail, like showing that his point is one of an evil person's mentality. But through what we see in the episode, they give you justifications as to why he thinks like that.
It's much more interesting for his point of view to be understandable, because it makes it more of a fair match, because there is that distinct ideological divide between Holden and Amos, and that's been explored on, built on, and is continuing to be a point of conflict. And that is so much more interesting than Holden good guy, Amos bad guy.
The Expanse is a messy world. It's a dirty world. People don't play fair. And so to reflect that, you need even our good guys to have that within them, our heroes to have that within them. And Holden is incapable of that for the most part. He's the goody two-shoes.
Yeah.
And you can fall into the many done traps of, well, our good guy character, by being so virtuous and good, proves that the human will to do right will win out over the bad in the world. But that's not true, okay? That's not realistic wholeheartedly.
No.
It doesn't always work like that. And so you have this counterpart here with Amos, where he's still on the side of our protagonists. Like, he is one of the people that we're rooting for, even though he has this tendency of violence and this apathy of the world, because he's still on the alignment of good. Yeah. And that's the really...
But he's not fighting the same fight as Holden.
No.
He's fighting to survive. Holden wants to achieve not even justice, because there's that really great line that he has of, like, basically, I don't want justice through bloodshed. And so I can't even say that Holden wants justice, but he does want redemption. He wants his life to be more good than bad in the way that he judges his actions and the consequences of them. And right now he feels sort of indebted to the universe.
Yeah, and he is driving at things with a specific purpose. Well, Amos, it very much comes across to me, he sees it as, I am heading towards this direction, and I'm going to keep heading there until I'm moved elsewhere or I'm stopped. And so I'm doing this mission with you guys because that's where I'm at. And to succeed at that, I'm going to kill people. And if that doesn't happen, great. How lucky was that? They managed to find the code in time. Phew.
So I didn't have to kill them. You didn't have to kill me. It's all good, right? And it's just like, well, he's like, well, no violence happened, so that's resolved now, which is a little bit psychopathic and creepy, because most people and most characters would have feelings about that, but he is so matter of fact and about it. But we get to see Holden. Holden still feels a lot of things about it, and I get why he goes to Naomi and why he talks to her the way that he does.
Oh, she addresses the fact that he's not a puppy dog. Remember how we've been calling her puppy dog? She even says, he's not a dog.
Yeah.
He is, Naomi. He is.
But the fact that he does talk down about Amos.
Wouldn't you?
Yes.
He's scary.
Yeah.
But for us,
because
the viewer...
he sees himself as his own weapon in the fight for survival. He, like... I feel like if you asked Amos, okay, what are you? You would ask several times before he would be like, a human? A person? He'd be like, I'm a member of the ship. I shoot good. Can blow stuff up.
He's an intricate character because on the surface he comes across as simple. But the writing, but more so the actor. A lot of this comes down to the actor, because if you didn't have the right performer for this role, the way we would view him would be less favorable. And the actor plays him with such just natural warmth inside of the detached coldness of the character that I can't help but be affectionate towards him. He has these eyes that both look through you and yet are so emotive. They haven't explicitly said his backstory, but what we get of it, like what we have gotten of it, and his performance tells me that this guy is someone who grew up very, very much in poor circumstances, a rough life, and so he is
in bars around sex workers.
He's a byproduct of the environment he lived in, and it's very much a nature versus nurture thing from him. How much of it is his nature, and how much of it was his nurture?
This boss that I used to work for in Baltimore, he called it the churn, when the rules of the game change.
What game?
The only game. Survival. Where the jungle tears itself down and builds itself into something new. Guys like you and me, we end up dead. Doesn't really mean anything. Or we happen to live through it. Well, that doesn't mean anything either.
So they find this man on board their ship transmitting codes back, and it's the guy from the bar, and he has his little eye checking things out, and he's very much a slippery character. He is designed to be two-faced, obviously, because he's a spy. What did you think of him?
I thought he was a really good spy. That's what I kept on going back to, because, like, we see him doing his thing. He's got, like, this thing booby-trapped ready for Amos as well. Like, Amos just happened to catch him by surprise.
I thought he was good. I like that actor. They get good actors on this show overall. He was funny. He was cowardly, cunning, smart. I never got past, though, the fact that there was a scene where they left him in the airlock with his hands free.
Yeah, I was just like,
so he could
be more careful
fuck around with technology, even though that's how Amos met him, was sabotaging shit.
Like, don't let him be free.
As much as I like this character, he did make the crew, or specifically Amos, come across a bit dumber than I think they ought to have made him. And I don't even think the payoff there was all that worth it. Like, the payoff being he's setting up this, I don't know, trap or gizmo inside of the airlock, and then he finds out that Amos is here to bring him back. and so he quickly tucks it away so that he doesn't activate it. It's very much played as a little dramatic irony and a bit of humor there. I don't know. I don't think it was worth it because I think everything else they did with the character was fine, but that was just one of those where they just wanted to make sure that we know he's still shifty, even though he's come across as pathetic. And I think they communicated that already.
Capable. Yeah. It was just a bit like, well, he needs something to do, so let's give him this business.
And he helps them with the mission that they're on, and now they're left with him at the very end, not knowing what they can do with him. Do they let him go? Do they make him a member of the crew? Do they kill him? Do they imprison him? It's unknown what they're going to do with him, but he's already planning. We see when Holden's talking to him and he's talking to Holden, we see from the point of view of his eye scanning for stuff. There's nothing there. There's no network connection, but he's playing the game.
Yeah, but he's banking up all of this stuff.
Yes, and I think that this will be one character to also keep an eye on of how they handle him, because he can easily fall into the annoying trickster character that keeps managing to foil the group and yet still keep being there, or he can be one of the most gripping in terms of that, because bringing up
also how long is he going to stick around?
How long is he going to stick around? I don't know, because you could go many ways with this guy, and so I want to see what they do with him overall. And he did have the pee gag, the piss gag. That was funny. I liked how that they did that. They
followed through on that.
Rule of 3. And I enjoyed it. I thought, I can't believe we actually got to see him piss and that he was relieved that he finally got to piss. Other shows would have avoided actually giving us that. Not The Expanse. The Expanse, you know that meme, the Predator meme of the two hands embracing and flexing the muscles, and it's got the text saying things in common about it. This is Babylon 5 and The Expanse showing us characters piss. That's the sci-fi thing between them two. It's yes! Because in B5 we would get many scenes of the characters pissing at the urinal. The story on the ship, we haven't even really broached that much.
No.
Because it's very light.
Yeah. It's a very simple story. It's more about the tension and the emotions of the character and what it wants to elicit from the audience as well.
Because they are flying through Martian space and things have been already fucked up for them because of what happened with the rock hopper in the last episode. It's now set the Martians on ultraviolet red, DEFCON 12 million. They're very ridged up because one of their ships got attacked by that Martian from that rock hopper in the last episode, and so now they're very much looking through every ship and bringing them in and not letting anything slip them by. And even though the crew have bolted on junk to the ship, it's not good enough. And thanks to the spies' broadcasts, it's even more obvious that they should be boarded and checked. And what I really got out of this was, I don't even care about the tension of this, because you know what I found to be the prevalent emotion that I had prevalent feeling I had when going through this? Fun. Mm-hmm. This was more fun.
It's a caper.
Yeah, this is, and the characters don't treat it deathly serious. They're not panicking and arguing and worrying as much.
No, they're very practical and experienced.
And there's a comedic lean to how they approach things. Naomi's making jokes. Donkey balls. The fact that the donkey balls thing is said gives you an understanding of what the tone is when it comes to them handling this plot. It's nothing serious. I was never worried for them. I was never sweating. I was never in panic of them getting caught. The most you get of that is, will Amos kill these people? Yeah. What would that bring upon the ship?
Yeah, there is tension without imminent danger. And I think the show is putting a lot of trust in its audience and assuming a level of media literacy as well, because of the way that it plays out that idea. because it isn't like that's its primary goal. It's if you know these tells, you know that they're safe. You can relax. You can lean into it. If you didn't, then you still have the tension. You still have the concern. So either way, you're still enjoying it because there's sort of, I go back to the idea of layers. There's layers of meaning and stuff going on. So even if you have the plot pegged from the start, which both of us did, we didn't say anything to each other, but it's like,
it was obvious.
Well, we know they're going to be safe. They're going to get something at the very last second.
They're going to get the code words at the last second, because the whole thing is, if you speak certain code words, the Martians will leave you alone because they think that you're high priority security, black ops, doing something. And there's never a doubt, you're right. And what made this stand out to me as well is we discussed this in the second episode, that blue collar approach to it of I'll kick it and it will work. This was, I'm going to grab the screwdriver, I'm going to grab this, and I'm just going to fucking hack my way through it and bash my way through it. The brute force mentality. And this does stand out to me when it comes to science fiction television shows. A lot of the time you get very clever, witty ways, or say very sci-fi techno-babble ways to break through things.
Or like, it's a 24-number digit code.
And you're expecting, one of them's going to start hacking, like computer hacking, and they'll figure out the code.
I'll be like,
no, just grab a hammer and let's go to work.
That thing about wanting to see like a lake on Mars, and if we turn the numbers, if we turn the letters into numbers,
or if you just write yum yum until you ran out of words, the limit number, then you can unlock it. But I know what you're saying though, and there's the other version of this. So it's like Naomi, because she's an engineer, means that she's also in computers, so she hooks up a thing and then she starts tapping away, and oh no, they're running out of power, and that's stopping her from doing what she wants, and blah blah blah.
Or
and
the spy just gives them a little card.
And instead it is, pass me that drill, pass me that hammer, I'm just going to bash my way into this. We need power to be taken out. Naomi, can you just rip the power out, but make sure not to take away this power? Yeah, I can do that. Done. That's it. And this is a comparison I don't make lightly. This is more straight-laced, less goofy, but still has that little bit of levity, which is Red Dwarf does this a lot, where a part of that show is you have the lowest ranking crew members on the ship. They're the people who fix the soup machines when their nozzle is broken. And many episodes would take that blunt brute force attack. There's a reason why one of the great lines in Red Dwarf is, it's too early in the morning for that Star Trek crap. Because that show is saying, no, we're not Star Trek. We can do Star Trek plots if we like, but we do them in the Red Dwarf way, the blue-collar schmo way. And I like that The Expanse has that as well. Obviously, to less of an overt sitcom comedy bent to it, but they still have it. Like, I was smiling from ear to ear that he just grabbed out a drill and was just going ham on it, because how many times do we see in these science fiction shows, they get up a holographic screen and start smacking in some code, and they start speaking techno-babble that you don't understand and you don't care about, and you just log off until the thing happens that progresses the story. At least here, there's a tactile nature to it where I go, okay, he's trying to open it up the way I would try and open that up. That's the relatability factor of The Expanse. We talk about the details. A lot of The Expanse, to me, is always brought about how there's great details in the world building and the lore and how things work. You need this so that you can do survive the G-force, and they don't have gravity, so they have to do this, and this is how suits work, and all that is great. But to me, this is the realism that draws me in. Instead of doing some normal sci-fi-ness thing to get the job done, here, they just, like in the second episode, kick it until it works.
Son of a bitch! Can you believe that? Damn, I'm good!
That worked out.
Well done, y'all!
Do you want to start at the start or start at the end with Miller?
Let's start at the start. It's fairly straightforward what he's going through. He's sad.
He is a sad and angry little man. Last episode, he got fired, and he's very angry at
The world at large.
world, but specifically the head of the OPA.
That fucker Anderson Dawes is doing press tours. That was amusing, just seeing him doing a little press junket on the TV. I had a good laugh at that.
Yeah. And then he's just chilling in his own nightclub. And Miller goes up to him to be like, hey, fuck it, you ruined my life.
I hate you, you suck. I did like
And he's still just like, you're a belter, you'll come around.
I'm fighting for you, and one day when you lose it all, when you actually lose everything, hey audience, one day Miller will actually lose everything, by the way. He hasn't lost everything yet.
Oh,
When you lose everything, you'll understand what I'm saying.
I want to re-listen to that little bit of dialogue.
Yeah.
It's like, when a man loses everything.
Then you'll come back here because
you haven't lost everything.
Because I've lost everything, so I know what it's like. I'm Jared Harris. I want to start with the very beginning scene with him, though. He's on the train, and he's recording a message or sending off some kind of speech to Julie Mao's father about how he has let the case down, and that you get all of these in Star Helix, that they're a dime a dozen, where they put you on a job where they don't actually want you to solve it. And so there are many people like Julie who fall through the cracks. But Miller actually became invested in this case and in this person, and he feels it as a personal responsibility.
He fell in love.
He takes it very hard that he's become attached to this girl and to the case, and he can't fulfill it. And so he's sending his sob story out. And that's him throughout the episode, is he's lashing out. He can't finish the case, and so he's going to bitch and moan about it. And I don't mean that in a flippant.
Coping well.
I don't mean that in a flippant way. This is him at the low point. This is him at the low point of the story. He's volatile. He'll do reckless things. He'll go over to Anderson Dawes and say, "Fuck you, you stink. I hate you."
You tried to kill me last time.
He'll just kick.
Maybe you'll kill me and I can get this. End this.
And he's no longer an elegant cop. He's just going to kick Julie's door down and walk into her apartment and start going through her shit and just throwing it all over the place until he gets
her necklace as a memento.
And then he is going to go to his apartment and just be a sad sack. I've not enjoyed Miller's storylines for the most part during the show, and I know you haven't either, but I appreciated very much, and I found it very enjoyable in this one. There was very minimal dialogue from him, and it was a lot of Thomas Jane acting out the emotional landscape that Miller was going through. I understood him very much.
More showing than a lot of the Miller plots have been.
If I turned off the sound and watched his story, I could still gather where his head is at, and that's the ultimate compliment I can give it. But there is more to the story, Rachel. It isn't just him being sad. It isn't just him lashing out and saying, "Hey, Anderson Dawes, I'm not like you. I wear a hat." He actually has to hang up his hat at the end of this episode for a reason that is very important. And what is that reason, Rachel?
He's going to Eros,
where Holden is going.
Also going, and where Aaron Wright plans to have Holden assassinated.
And why is he going there? Why is Miller going there?
He's got a lead.
One of what was it? It wasn't the Anubis ship. It was a carrier from that ship.
Yeah.
Has been sitting in their transport bay for ages.
Yep. Just racking up docking fees. He gets this tip from that guy that I think we've seen before.
I think he called him up to say, "Hey, could you check this out?" Or at least he's been referenced. When he appeared, I went, "Oh, I remember this being
I was like,
set up."
I was like, this isn't a random thing. This is this connects to something, but I can't remember clearly. But I'm like, I know you did something. I just can't remember what. So the very last scene and shot of this episode is us getting the confirmation that he's on that transport heading for Eros. Which I did find a bit odd. I'm like, I get that you have to, like,
buy a ticket. We see him gather all of his coins.
Yeah.
Put him in a sock.
But then it's just like the previous scene felt like the end of the episode, and then there was this as well. And I'm like, okay, I get it.
Multiple ending syndrome.
You want it to, like, really reinforce, no, he's on his way. He's on his way.
I'm happy to see that he's on his way because this is a show where it takes him 5 episodes to get the ship. So
yeah, like, I get it, but I was also just like, it didn't add a lot to me.
Oh, okay.
It felt very functional.
I guess there's the dilemma of his final scene before that was a really, really heartfelt and really deep character insight between him and his partner Octavia.
Oh yeah, it was the placement of it more than
like that could have been a great
itself,
kappa to Miller, where we know he's going to go off, but we've had this great conversation before.
It's a real high point, and then there's just this dialogueless scene of him on the ship,
looking serious.
Yeah, the extras and him being hatless.
Oh, he's hatless. Oh boy! But he's still got shoes on in this. Thomas Jane must be so upset. He really would have loved to have hung his shoes on that and walked out. But I really like the conversation he had with his partner and how she was really upset with him for trying to leave without saying anything properly.
I like also that we don't see the message that he sent her. We just get the sort of idea that he just did those messages to everybody and he was just going back and forth in the tube that we saw him in. And she's just like, is that all I get? And he's just like, yeah. And I loved no Havelock to be seen.
If he doesn't appear again, that will be the gift that keeps on giving. But with Miller, he's going to go here. He's going to go to the station. He's going to connect up with the other plot lines because he's been so adjacent to them. So it's going to be exciting to see him finally converge with the other characters. But I thought it was... Miller is a character I've struggled with, but this one did give me more to go on with that conversation about how he starts to open up and admit to the fact that he is a creature of such despair that he needs to follow this through, because if he doesn't, he has nothing. And that's sad. It's really sad, but it's a sadness that makes for a compelling character to see him be the cop that cannot stop. And he will do it even if it destroys him. And so I'm more invested in Miller than I ever have been. And I really want to see him talk to the other characters. I want to see him and Naomi talk. I want to see him and Amos chat and probably get into a punch-up.
I'm going to take a trip.
To where?
Eros. Yeah. I'm going to see the sights.
What sights? Miller, Eros is a garbage dump. If this thing is as big as you think it is, you're gonna need someone to watch your back. A partner.
How do you feel about the story, how they've made the storylines tie together as they have? Because we've been wondering, how are they going to make them link up?
Yeah, and we knew that was a thing that was going to happen. But I think it was maybe last episode, fairly sure I did this on mic, of being like, how much are they going to wrap up before the end of the season? Like, at what point are we going to change over? And it definitely feels like probably the big climax is going to center around Eros, because they are both converging there. We are,
as is the UN,
getting towards the end of this season because it's 10 episodes, I think?
Yes, and next one will be episode 8.
Yeah. So, and often like the final 2 episodes of TV from this era either are double parters or feel like double parters. So it's just like we'll get a little bit more setup probably in next episode.
Yeah, I imagine we're going to get a little bit of that for sure. Like them arriving there, any hurdles they have to go through with that, and probably the stuff with Chris Jen being a bit more prevalent, because whether she's physically going to go there and try and stop what's happening, or she's going to at least send forces herself, intervene
in some way,
or have some agency in a fashion that could be played with a lot in the next episode.
And I don't know if we're going to get to see that stealth ship again.
Yeah, will the stealth ship
or
know about stuff about
like
what's going on here? Yeah,
because it is out there in that area, and Holden seems to be a magnet for it. So, I don't know. Sorry, that's getting a little bit of ahead of ourselves and getting into prediction territory.
I mean, that's my predictions, okay? I'm just not going to bother doing the predictions later because that's my predictions for the upcoming episodes as well. Like, I don't have too much to add to that. Now, I'm good to give a rating if you are, because...
Let's hear it, Ryan.
I enjoyed this. I thought it was good. I liked this because it took a back step in terms of the momentum, but did not neglect to still give us good material, because we've had that where we've taken a step back and we get back to the butcher, which was one of my least favorite episodes, where it's like, oh, here's all the Havelock stuff, like we'll go through all that crap and the OPA and this here was more restrained. But I still give it a yum yum.
Yum yum. I also give it a yum yum. Yum yum.
On a scale of yum being bad and yum yum being good, we both give this a good rating. But what is the next episode? What is episode 8 of season 1 of The Expanse?
Salvage.
Salvage. That's a good title, because we also know that like there's a lot to salvage here, and they're actually going to a scrapyard planet or like junkie planet where they're salvaging things for parts and
of this record. All 3 episodes that we have left are all an 8.5 on IMDb.
Good. Well, we'll see if it's actually good.
Yes. See if it's yum yum. The Gaunt Belter appeared.
The Gaunt Belter did appear, and he said, not Dusters, but he said that you can find the Yum Yum podcast on all of those social medias under Yum Yum Pod or Yum Yum Podcast. Make sure to follow them on there, or else you're world waller.
Did you know that the OPA has an email, but that's not important, because you can contact the Yum Yum Podcast via yumyumpod@gmail.com.
If you support with financial means Yum Yum Podcast on Patreon, you get a lot of exclusive content on bonus content, as well as getting to be a part of a group Discord. I hear this is true. Yum Yum Podcast, which I am a host of, so you can tell this is a reliable source, actually released the Expanse discussions on Patreon first. So if you want to hear our thoughts on the remainder of season 1 into season 2 right now, go over to our Patreon, Yum Yum Podcast on Patreon. You can hear so much more about what we think of The Expanse right here and now, okay? Instead of having to wait the week to week.
See, Dawes was doing a press junket for the OPA. Gaunt Belter was taking a little side mission and hyping us up. And we appreciate that.
Can we end the episode with a hearty thank you, Gaunt Belter?
Thank you, Gaunt Belter. We really appreciate it. You're one of our most valuable younglings.
You're my favorite character in the show. Thank you, Gaunt Belter. Keep doing what you're doing.
See you then. Well, voila.